my friends, thank you so much for being here. Guys, you can imagine my excitement when I found out that Aldi of all places, one of my favorite spots to pick up my groceries and a good random deal here or there, Aldi is now carrying some makeup. Yes, the Lacura brand has put out some palettes. They also have a couple of primers and a mascara. So just like a real random little group of makeup here. Lacura is a brand that ever since I remember starting shopping at Aldi, I remember them putting out like maybe a moisturizer or two, a face wash. You know, there were just a few things in that personal care category that this brand covered. And to prove my love to Aldi for you, I am part of a Facebook group. It's like the Aldi Aisle of Shame community or whatever, because there's this aisle in Aldi. While it's mainly a grocery store, there's an aisle where there tends to be a lot of random stuff that switches out every so often. It's like you'll go to Aldi for your milk, bread, eggs, and strawberries, and then you go down the aisle of shame and then suddenly you've picked up a mini tramp, some fuzzy socks, and a Paw Patrol toy. You know, like you just don't know what's going to be there. But somebody posted in that just a shot of their Lacura eyeshadow palette, and I thought, oh my gosh, you know, so I immediately got on Instacart. I saw the stuff. There were 4 different eyeshadow palettes. There were 3, I guess, in stock that I could get, and they were $5.99 each. And I just thought, okay, I'm getting all those. What other makeup is there? There were a couple of primers, and there was a mascara in both a regular and a waterproof version. So while I don't have a full face to show you today, I certainly will show you the things that I do have. And I'm really just starting to get familiar with this stuff as well, but I'm so excited about it and I really want to share it with you because there's just something about Aldi, right? Like, I mean, I expect to find my roasted sweet corn popcorn there. I expect to find my off-brand Lunchables there, but I'd like makeup? What? Like this is my area. Makeup and Aldi. Yes. Okay, so I have the Snapshot Ready Pore Minimizing Primer and I also have the Illuminating Primer. And frankly, guys, we might just try, you know, even layering the two. I first got a little bit of this out. Okay, that's a much better texture. When I first squeezed some out, there was a little separated liquid, but now it's seeming much more creamy. Okay, this is the Pore Minimizing. Wow, feels great on the skin. Reminding me of a little bit of like Professional Hydrating. Really creamy. Frankly, reminding me a little bit of like Laura Geller Spackle Mattify. I mean, both of those are kind of in the same category, but this is just very smooth. I can see an immediate impact on the pores, even before putting any makeup on top of it. It might not be wise to mess with this and put the Illuminating right on top, you know, because I just don't want to mess with the good thing that we've got going here, but I will show you some of the Illuminating on my hand here. In the latter part of this video, maybe I'll have some examples of it, but it comes out kind of white looking, and then as I blend it in, you can see some subtle glow. It's definitely not over the top. Like, the glow is very, very soft and subtle. I think this is one that might amount to looking like some added hydration on the skin, but not really to the point of like maybe being an added liquid highlighter on the skin the way the Believe Beauty one is, the Dollar General one. That one has enough glow in it, more like Charlotte Tilbury's Hollywood Flawless filter, to where, yeah, you could sheer that out, wear it all over the skin, but you could also spotlight some areas. This I don't feel like has quite enough shimmery punch in it to perform that way, but I think by way of a little extra moisture and a hint of sheen, it could be a little bit illuminating on the skin. But 2 primers that I got, and if you guys have spotted anything else that for some reason is there but it wasn't showing up on my Instacart app, like just tell us all in the comments section. This is all very new. So okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the rest of my face, and we're going to do the eyeshadow look. I'm gonna choose one of the palettes and use the mascara too. Okay guys, so I did the rest of my face, and guess what? As I was doing it, half my garland fell down. My new eucalyptus garland. I'm trying to make it go down longer, but that means what's sitting along the top is not like anchoring it up there very well, so I'm gonna need to just like attach it with something, but it's fine. I got half garland. But on top of that primer, I'm wearing the new Kosas Revealer Skin Improving Foundation, and I feel like every day I try this, I'm using less and less of it, so today it was only like half a pump, but I do feel like the pore minimizing primer did some work. Like I actually feel even smoother all over with that on first. I used my LYS Triple Fix Full Coverage Brightening Concealer. Yes, some new things here. Then I set my under eye with my Wet n Wild loose powder. I used Laura Geller Baked Bronze and Brighten as my bronzer. I used my Persona blush in Georgia. That's just a nice peachy color on the cheeks. And then I thought, what the heck, let's give the Illuminating primer a shot as just a little dabbed on highlight. And actually it's showing more than I thought it would. It's more subtle than the Believe Beauty one, but it's still like pretty, you know, because I wasn't super glowy whatsoever before I put this on. So I thought that was nice. I did my brows, put on some eye primer, and then these are the eyeshadow palettes. And basically they're each a different kind of naked dupe type thing. We have the Nectar one here, and they're kind of like a sort of a cheap metal feeling packaging, but this is sort of their take on Urban Decay Naked Honey. And I've done like it's kind of some light swatching of some of these, and I was a little bit skeptical because not every shade just felt amazing. But this one called 2, it's called Naturals 2 eyeshadow palette, and it was the Naturals 1 that they didn't have in stock, which I wonder if that was like the original OG Naked palette, but this is supposed to be more like Naked 2. And then this one called Intense, I believe this is supposed to be like Naked Heat actually. And this is the one that I'm gonna play with on camera today, and maybe tomorrow I can like smush in a look of with one of the other ones and like some swatches and stuff like that. I don't like to do a ton of swatching before I try an eyeshadow palette because it rarely tells the whole story. It can give you a sense of like the feel and the texture of the eyeshadow, but still it's different in application a lot of times for me. So this palette does come with a little double-ended brush that actually looks quite good. One end is a little bit pinched in at the ferrule. It looks like it could semi-pack on some shadow. It's not as flat as I'd like a real pack-it-on brush to be, but it could blend or possibly pack on, and then more of a traditional looking blender side over on the other end. So I'm super pumped to see how far we can take this. And then the other product we'll be trying on is that mascara, which really appears to be like a Too Faced Better Than Sex dupe, okay? So I'm just gonna go into one of these soft mattes here. I'm gonna use Latte. I was playing with this one a little bit yesterday, and I wasn't over the moon with the swatches, but yet I felt like the matte shades were applying really nicely. So again here, this shade called Latte, just this mid-tone warm brown. It's just kind of funny because I'm not hurting for these palettes. Like I have the Urban Decay version of them, you know, and I'm not hurting for like more neutral palettes, period. But it's just sort of the novelty of like Aldi's carrying it. Like we need to report to people because a lot of people love to shop there for their groceries, but I need to tell you how the makeup is. So I just really had to try it out. Okay, that shade's totally good. Then we're gonna go to Cerise right here, this matte kind of rusty color in the middle of the palette, and we're going to see if we can boost up that color a little bit. Sorry, I end up looking way off to the wrong side. These aren't kicking up any fallout. We're not talking about a real soft formula here, and that's what's going to make some people like swatch it and say, ugh, this is no good, but yet I'm applying it and I'm getting color. So you guys know I'm not a big like over applier. I don't throw just a ton of product on the eye all at once. I do like to build up little by little, and I'm still seeing good color there. I want to grab for a different brush. I'll do the Morphe one here. This is my M332, and we'll go over to the shade called Halo, still a matte. That one had a little more softness. And I'm just gonna apply that over the edge. It's just a little like kind of off-white shade. No issues there. And then we have a shimmer, a soft shimmer here called Ivory. I think I'll pick some of that up. And yeah, I can see that. I can see that little bit of glow. That could be, let's try that as a face highlight. It's because it's got some glow but not too shimmery. I'm just sticking my Real Techniques setting brush in there. A little. On a swatch, you know, I mean, not bad at all. What's really going to tell me a lot here is what the deeper shades can do. Okay, so I'm going to go to Plum. That's my darkest matte, and then we do have a shimmer right at the tail end called Walnut. That one, that one swatched pretty nice, like a deep shimmery brown. I'm not going to pull for that yet. I'm still staying with my matte analysis. So we're going into Plum, darkest matte in the palette. And let's see. Okay, pretty. That's more faint than I would have expected. But can it be built? Yeah, she can be built. Again, I'm going in, I'm not kicking up any fallout. That makes a palette, I think, a lot easier for someone who's not used to using eyeshadow. I mean, you think about somebody who's never really done this before, and then it's like, wait, what do I do with all this excess? And then you get the over application, and you get mistakes, and you get overwhelm. So it's nice to have a palette, especially an affordable one. Could go to someone who's a beginner that's not going to kick up a bunch of dust and overwhelm you. Okay, so Plum. You know, seeing how dark it is in the palette, it could have applied a little darker, but it is building. Now I'm going to go inward a little bit with the shade right beside it called Merlot. So less plummy, a little more burgundy here. I love the tones. I mean, no complaints about the color scheme, and really Urban Decay is the one to thank for that. They came up with it. That shade seemed even a little softer and a little more what you see is what you get. Now I want to take a smaller brush, Profusion Small Pointed. We want to go into Plum again, and maybe a little Merlot too, since that seemed to be a bit softer. And we're going to see how smoky it can be. You can spare me the comments of, this is the kind of look you always do. I'm trying to test eyeshadows here. So, okay, so I'm trying to see, not that a lot of you guys are like that anyway, but there's always somebody. But I'm really just trying to see what this does in the framework of what I expect an eyeshadow to do. Okay, so I'm not going to try to put this through some off-the-wall paces that I wouldn't try with other eyeshadow. Does that make sense? I'm trying to see if it can do the things I typically expect an eyeshadow to do. So look at this. I'm seeing a lot of depth here. I was able to work in that way really well. And it's kind of making me want to transition out from that with a little something else. Let's take a little bit of auburn right here. So we have some different textures of shimmer. We have soft shimmer with this auburn shade. That looks good. Soft shimmer with the walnut. And then we have kind of possibly a flaky shimmer. That's a little bit softer. That one called Rose Quartz. Not too much payoff there. And then Blaze. Not incredible, but we'd have to see it on the eyes. But I'm going to take a little bit of auburn actually. So soft shimmer, kind of a little bit reddish. See that shade right there? And I'm going to let some of that just warm things up all around the edge of what I've done. Now that I've pulled up the darker shades, I kind of just want to see how this rolls. Okay, that's nice. That's nice. Now I'm going to try some of this shade called Rose Quartz. It really looks like kind of a goldeny shade, and it didn't look very intense on a finger swatch, but I'm going to see how it goes on my inner lid here. It's there, but it's looking very sheer. Not as good of a shimmer formula as some of the others within the same palette, you know. Not a top pick color by any means, but we're building and we're trying. We will try to make anything work here on this channel, okay? We will never throw our hands up and say, impossible. Impossible things are happening every day. I'm compelled to take some Ivory, the shimmer. Get a little of that in here. What happens if we use a little bit of Blaze, maybe even with our finger? The mattes overall are the most consistent part of the palette, and there are quite a few in here. I mean, we got a string of 3 basic mattes right here, another matte, and then 3 more right over here. And, you know, 1, 2, 3 decent shimmers peppered throughout, 2 kind of questionable shimmers. But I'm trying here with, what was the shade? Blaze. That can be patted on a little bit with your finger, and you can see some sheen. That's what I was doing with that yesterday, and I thought it was actually kind of pretty. Really not too upset with the way that's coming together. Okay, let's allow ourselves to have a little something going on under the eye. Let's do some walnut. Deep shade, little shimmer, like deep, cool, shimmery brown. Okay, just using it like smoky liner. Profusion Small Pointed brush. By the way, if you're new here, Any brush that I use from Profusion, that's available through Walmart, and they are fantastic drugstore brushes. Some of the best, like, just basic eye brushes you can get. I wish they'd make a really good flat pack-it-on brush, but that's why I'm using Morphe. I've realized they had a good flat brush. And I'm previously someone who used a lot more expensive brushes, but I was just realizing how many great ones the drugstore had, and I've pretty much converted most of my eyeshadow brush needs to drugstore now. So there's the Intense palette, my friends. You saw it go down. I thought the mattes were very easy to control, easy to build. The biggest frustration might come from a couple of those shimmers, but still, like, all in all, the look is fine. I really have no issue. Now, what I'm going to do next is not even do eyeliner, because sometimes eyeliner gets in the way, especially if you're really trying to see a certain mascara on me. The eyeliner can kind of get in the way of seeing the full picture. So I'm going to curl my lashes. This is my Shiseido lash curler, the best one in my opinion. You can get it at Sephora or Ulta. They have gold like I have, or they have a silver one as well, I believe. But this is called the They're Brilliant Mascara. Same like size and weight of tube as Too Faced, same font, same spacing, like same brush. It's crystal clear to me what they're trying to do here. And again, that kind of semi-large hourglass shaped brush that's going to be a little bit pinched in the center. Use the mirror here because my kids took my little heart-shaped mirror. Okay, it's really not getting a ton on my lashes all at once. That means the brush came out very cleaned off through the tube. But that can be a good thing. We don't necessarily want to be overloaded. We don't want something really heavy that's going to drop the curl. But I can tell it's a very creamy formula from what comes off on the tip. You'll want to clean off that tip. What I'm noticing here with about one coat is that the lashes are not being stuck together at all. They're being defined very well, more than I thought they would be. And I'm hoping with more coats now I can make them look a little bigger, add a little more thickness to each lash, maybe a little more length. With the second coat, I want to see the drama, right? And this mascara is really in the early stages for me, okay? And a lot of times, and I know many of you probably feel the same way, you'll have a mascara on hand for a while and it will actually get better for you as you've used it. Like in a couple weeks, you can really get to a sweet spot with your mascara because the formula may just dry out ever so slightly and it can be really, really good. So this is not necessarily the final say here, but I'm liking this more on this first go-round than I've liked a lot of mascaras I've used for the first time. It seems to really be staying with my curl that I put in, and I can't see it dropping at all so far. I wonder if they're going to come out with more stuff, you know? We're probably looking at around about 3 coats here with this, and I'm seeing more thickness now. I'm about to go too far because I can see some of the lashes sort of sticking together a bit, but we'll go ahead and do the other eye. Other things that I've gotten from Lacura over the years, like they'll occasionally have out maybe some little hand creams or lip balms. Lip balms has been as close as it's gotten to a makeup vibe though for me. I was just shocked when I saw palettes. Aldi? My makeup and Aldi loving heart just about exploded. And I'm so thankful for Instacart too, because that makes it really easy for me to not have to like jump in the car every time I need something. I'm so grateful for that service over the past, couple of years here. Okay, so again, with first touch to the lashes, you're just getting definition. It's defining well, it's not sticking them together. There's several coats, there's one coat. And again, I think I mentioned it earlier, but there is a waterproof version of this as well. Sometimes it's hard with the larger brushes, which I'd call this a larger brush, because you want to kind of get right up in there and really push against your lashes, but the brush is so big that it makes you feel like you're going to hit your eyelid, which I have done several times. But okay, there's the mascara. I don't really want to take it any further than that because I feel like the lashes might be slightly sticking together. I think I've got the perfect lipstick to cap off this look. It's my Fireberry lipstick from Believe Beauty. That's the Dollar General makeup brand. and it's just rich and like deep brownish berry. Finish that off with a little 90210 lip liner from Persona. Anytime I feel like I'm kind of smoky on the eye and dark on the lip, I'm like, this look needs just a little more blush. This is my Georgia blush, also from Persona. And again, we have that little bit of glow happening on the cheeks from the Illuminating primer. So that's today's look with the Intense Eyeshadow Palette, aka the Naked Heat dupe. As I said, a lot of good shades in here, but a couple, you know, that were a little bit rough to work with. But to be honest with you, how many times have I said that about an Urban Decay palette? Okay, and this was, what, $5.99? It's interesting how much it looks like Profusion though, and this brand does have a lot of competition because Profusion being sold at Walmart, $5 for quite a few different palettes. Definitely something to consider there. But I like this look. I gotta say, it pulled off a look in tones that I really enjoy and really with ease. So I think what I'll do is pop on here tomorrow as well and show you yet another look with one of those other palettes, and we can see how that goes as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you. Bye. I'm back. Day 2. We're gonna be trying out Thunder. We're going to be trying out another eyeshadow palette today, but before I get into that, I did do some swatching yesterday and some comparing, and I just wanted to discuss that a little bit. So first off, with the swatches of the Intense palette that I wore the other day, this is very comparable to the Naked Heat palette from Urban Decay, and you can tell that just by looking at the palettes side by side. And by the way, I'm using a new editing software. I have been for the last few videos, and I'm not always clear on overlaying the pictures, like doing it the same way I used to. I'm kind of like still learning about that. We'll see how I get it done this time, but you can see the two palettes side by side and try to disregard the outer border of the palettes, and you can see that the shadows really do look a lot alike. And then in the swatches, I was really surprised at how similar the Intense palette and the Heat palette swatch side by side. I really felt like the mattes shade-wise matched up really well. The texture of some might have felt a little softer out of the Urban Decay palette, but color-wise and ultimately like their appearance, they look the same. I think the main difference I saw was with the Rose Quartz shade in this one. The comparable shade in the Urban Decay palette is a little more pinky, but overall, as you can see, those two are very, very similar. Okay, then I swatched out the Nectar palette, and this is the one that's going to be comparable to the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette, and this is loaded with lots of golds, and I felt like as I swatched this one, like, you know, some of these shimmers, I could just tell that if I were applying them on the eye, they might take a little building up, but still, it wasn't too bad all in all. And then compared to the Urban Decay Naked Honey palette, what I noticed was some softer shimmers out of that palette, with a couple of exceptions. There were a couple of shades that weren't super strong, like that really yellowy gold was one of them. But all in all, the shades matched up so well. You can see on the fourth shade in, Urban Decay went deeper with that one, and my Aldi palette was lighter, but still, just for overall color scheme and the way those mattes were, I was really impressed with how similar those are. And then I wanted to swatch out the 2 palette, or the Naturals 2 eyeshadow palette. So this is going to be comparable to the Naked 2. I think this is the one I'm going to use today because it's just going to give me a lot different look compared to what I did yesterday. And this one swatched out pretty well, I thought, but there are some deliberate differences in this one. By deliberate, I mean it's like they weren't even really trying to dupe certain shades. They just went in a totally different direction on some. And it ended up working out that there are more mattes here than there are in the Urban Decay Naked one. I noticed it mainly with this second kind of like matte taupey shade in here. It's matte in this palette, but that ends up being a very shimmery shade in Urban Decay Naked 2. And also this shade right here that they call Pistol, that ends up being like a matte deep gray, and it's actually a metallic silver in the Naked 2. I also noticed a difference with this shade. It wasn't that it was less pigmented than the other palette, but like just a lighter shade in general. So those were the key differences that I noticed there, and I'm not sure why they went like so consistent with the other ones and then went off course a little bit with these, but personally I might like like a few more mattes in the palette as opposed to shimmer, so I'm not really upset by that. But I just wanted to lay those comparisons out for you and show you just how similar these palettes are to each other. All in all, there were some texture differences here and there. Urban Decay is not 100% flawless, with me like loving every shimmer texture they do. Generally the mattes work out pretty well, but there will be some kind of oddball shimmers that I just don't love. But in general, I feel like I probably noticed a little more softness in those than with the Lacura palettes, but still, as you could tell in the swatches, you were able to achieve the same kind of color. So I just wanted to point that out for you guys. And today we're going to use the 2 palette, and just to recap also, I'm wearing again this Kosas Revealer Skin Improving Foundation. I'm really liking this. I'm liking what it does for me with only half a pump of foundation. And instead of the LYS concealer, which I feel lacks a little coverage, today I'm doing the new Kat Von D one because I heard some raves and I'm like, well, maybe I should go for it. Light 109. I've been wearing it on and off lately, and it is very full coverage, very thin. Feels like a little thinner consistency than a Shape Tape to me. And then I've got on my LYS bronzer, the cream blush, and the translucent powder as well. Ooh, and I did put on the illuminating primer underneath everything. I didn't notice a big impact from it, really. Once it was like sheared out all over the skin, my skin looked a little more dewy, but it wasn't like over the top. And then I'm wearing Catrice Sungasm highlight today. And I don't think I've peeled the film off of this mirror yet. How satisfying. Okay, so another little tutorial here. I'm gonna go to the shade labeled Lilac. It's kind of like a dusty grayish shade that, yeah, might have just a little lilac in it, but not loud at all, very murky. And I do already have some Milani eyeshadow primer on there. But yeah, I feel like these palettes have done the mattes pretty darn well, and for the most part, like shade-wise, they've matched up so much to what was in the Urban Decay palettes, at least in the Honey one, in the Intense one, or the Heat, whatever you want to think of it as. Also, this black actually swatched really well too. Okay, now I'm going to deepen it up a little bit. I'm going to go to Pistol, which they have as this kind of matte medium to deep gray. And just let that come into the crease also. I still need to put up the other half of my garland that fell down. Oops. Nice and easy and even there. I think I'll take Vanilla on the very end. It's a matte vanilla, and we'll just pop that up here under the brow-ish area. And I really want to try the black in action, honestly. I ain't scared of a black. You put a black in a palette, I want to see how good it is. So we're taking a flat brush. This is my Morphe M167, and I always try to link brushes down in the info box for you guys. Okay, so it's patting on nice and even, not seeming patchy, seeming pigmented. As pigmented as I'd want a matte black to go on. And we'll just kind of get our brush wedged right up there to the crease, and then we'll blend with something else. A matte black instantly makes any palette more versatile. You know, it can be like eyeliner, it can be smudgy, smoky liner. It can just add to the contrast of the entire look. And seeing as this is a decent black, like you could turn out a look you'd be satisfied with, pairing that with just about any other light shade, whether the light shade wasn't as pigmented as you wanted it to be. It's like the black is there. Am I making sense? I just feel like I'm rambling. So there's that black wedged up into the crease, patted all over the lid. And now I'm thinking I'll take the shade right next to it, which is a near black with a little shimmer. And I'm just gonna use that in my crease and to just blend outward a bit. Yeah. So we're just using like little circular motions. We're blending this deep, murky, kind of brownish black with shimmer into the crease and blending it with the black from the lid, because we also kind of push that up into the crease too a bit with that flat brush. I am not struggling with these shadows. I'm not trying hard to make them show up. I'm really having a pretty good experience overall. I mean, you give me a matte black that I find to be easy to work with, you're going to become my friend. I'm really, really pleased with how this is coming along. I love that intensity on the outer lid and how it's just kind of fading out. Might be a situation now where you want to bring in a bare brush and just kind of hit the edge. And then I think I'll take something just a little lighter, like this color called Mocha. kind of like an antique bronze type of color, but not real warm. Thus the antique description. I'm just gonna let that come on the lower lash line. Okay, and there is the eye look so far, but I want to pop something on the inner lid just for a little pizzazz. And I have a couple of different options. I think I'm going to use this color called Coin right here, which would appear to be like kind of a rose gold. Right here with a little smaller brush. Ooh, hey now, no problem there. That really showed up. Beautiful. It really added a little unexpected warmth to this very cool eye, didn't it? Nothing seems to be weird about the texture, and it is patting on without the need for me to come in and like pile it on with my finger. Next, I think I'll take Orchid, which is a really soft shimmer right here. You can get a little bit coming around the inner corner. It's not showing a whole lot in that way, but it is a nicely textured shade. All right, friends, questions, comments, concerns? I'm pretty happy with this look. Again, it was all the pigment I could need. Every shade I randomly went for worked well. Also, you guys, this mascara wore so well for me yesterday in terms of not flaking and holding the curls. So I'm gonna use this again, and I'll be right back and show you what lip color I put on. And so here's the finished eye look. The only thing I put on was the Lacura mascara. Where is it? Same one as yesterday. So that kind of finishes off the eye look. And then on the lips, I'm wearing my Super Stay Matte Ink Crayon in the shade called Enjoy the View. Kind of this peachy, toasty shade. I've always liked this one. Sometimes I pair it with something deeper, but I felt like going with a little lighter lip today. So with what I've tried so far, which is everything but the Nectar palette, this I'll have to follow up with some looks, maybe showing you on Instagram or, you know, featuring it in a future YouTube video. But I did want to show you the swatches and how it swatched out and compared to Urban Decay. But as far as these two go, I felt like I really enjoyed the looks I got from them. I love the color scheme of the Intense palette, but I felt like just the consistency of all the quality in the 2 palette. Oh, this one has a flatter brush on it. I didn't stop and notice that. That's great. But I felt like there was so much consistency with this palette too, and just the way everything applied. And for a cooler look, I really like that also. The mascara has been great for me. There are very few things that go ahead and hold my curl all day and give me that nice length and thickness. So pleasantly surprised there. I wouldn't have expected that to, you know, move mountains for me, but I really like it. And in terms of the primers, I prefer the pore minimizing. I felt like that actually really truly made an impact on my pores and felt like some different high-end primers that I've used. The Illuminating had a very subtle effect. It's not the kind of thing where I'm like, yeah, you must have that, like it's so different. Not really. But I think these palettes are definitely something to look into if you see them in your Aldi and you're like, should I spend the $6? I say give them a go, especially if you're a big Aldi fan and you just get a kick out of using an Aldi palette. Now, if you already have the Urban Decay versions of these things, is it essential to have this? No, because they're really so close. It's not necessary to double up unless you're a huge Aldi nerd. And again, you get some kind of thrill out of using an eyeshadow palette that came from Aldi. If you don't already own those Naked palettes and you've always wanted them at a lower cost, I mean, for sure, give these a look. There are going to be some texture differences. There are going to be a few select shade differences. Some things here and there you might build up a little bit more. Some things you might pat on with a finger, you know. But vast majority of matte shades that I've used have been very, very consistently good. Within the shimmers, you may find a few more hits and misses, but you'll find that in Urban Decay also, to be honest. Thank you so much for watching this video. I wanted to get on this as soon as possible. I wasn't sure if like this is a limited time thing or how they're running this. Is there going to be more makeup? I don't know, but I just knew, do not wait on this video. So thank you guys for watching. I love you so much, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.